She said it was the most significant abuse of contracting authority she had seen in her career. Guess what happened to her? Well, it's what happens to too many whistleblowers. She got demoted. She lost her job. She got demoted because she had the guts to speak out. And now this whole issue has been subsumed behind the wall, behind the curtain in the Defense Department. Well, we can't talk about it. Can't talk about it now because it's under investigation. This woman lost her job nearly 4 years ago and was replaced, by the way, by someone who had no experience, not a day's worth of experience in contracting authority. That's the way it works over there. You blow the whistle, you pay for it with your career. Lieutenant General Joe Ballard, he had since retired from the military. I said, General Ballard, Bonatine Greenhouse spoke out about the billions of dollars given the Halliburton Corporation and the abuse of the way those contracts were let. And she was demoted. Tell me about Bonatine Greenhouse. You hired her. He said, she's the best. She got a raw deal. This from General Ballard, since retired. Well, the Pentagon decided to award big, no-bid, sole-source contracts to the Halliburton Corporation. It's called Restore Iraqi Oil, the Rio contract. And then they had other contracts, the log cap contract. The waivers that were required were not given. This was short-circuited, and we have seen the result of this now for a long, long period of time. Mr. President, I have been to the floor a good many times to talk about the hearings I have held, and I don't mean to single out Halliburton. It's just the company that's gotten the biggest contracts. And when a company gets hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars, and then, in my judgment, is not performing and is taking all the money, we have a right to ask questions. $85,000 brand new trucks left beside the road to be put on, torched and set on fire because they didn't have enough equipment, didn't have a wrench to fix a tire. $85,000 brand new trucks left to be torched beside the road because they had a plugged fuel pump. Doesn't matter, the taxpayer will pay for that. That doesn't matter. Cost plus contract. Cost plus, taxpayer will pay for all that. Mr. President, let me show a towel again, as sometimes the smallest issues make the biggest points. This is a white towel. Henry Bunting came and testified. Ask consent to show this towel on the floor of the Senate. Henry Bunting came and testified. And, Mr. President, Henry Bunting was a purchasing agent for the Halliburton Corporation. He worked in Kuwait. He was purchasing for our troops in Iraq. One of his jobs was to purchase a towel. So he wrote out a purchase order for a towel. And his supervisor looked at that and said, no, you can't buy that towel. That was just a plain white towel. You need to buy a towel that has KBR, Kellogg, Brown and Root, the subsidiary of Halliburton, embroidered on the towel. He said, but the problem is that'll triple or quadruple the cost of the towels that we're buying for the troops. His supervisor says, you don't understand, it doesn't matter. These are cost plus contracts. It doesn't matter. Henry Bunting told us about tripling or quadrupling the price of towels, about $45 for a case of Coca-Cola, about $7,600 for 1 month lease of an SUV, about 25 tons of nails that are sitting on the ground and on the sand of Iraq because somebody ordered 50,000 pounds of nails and ordered them too short. Didn't matter. Taxpayer pays for all that. Just throw them on the sand and reorder. How about charging for 42,000 meals for the soldiers a day and serving only 14,000 meals a day? Missing 28,000 meals? Doesn't look like an innocent mistake to me. Rory Mayberry came to testify at a hearing I held. He was a supervisor of food service for the Halliburton subsidiary. And he said, we were told that when an auditor came by, don't you dare talk to an auditor. We forbid you to speak to a government auditor. He said they were routinely charging for more soldiers, more food rather for soldiers, than soldiers existed, routinely. He said they were routinely serving date-expired stamped food. Supervisor said, it doesn't matter, just serve it to the troops. I mentioned the issue of water quality. Again, the issue of requirement, the contract to provide water to our troops at the military bases in Iraq. That was a Halliburton contract. A couple of whistleblowers came to me and gave me the internal memorandum in the company. They were providing water that was twice as contaminated as raw water from the Euphrates River. I had it in writing, yet Halliburton denied it, and so did the U.S. Army. Only when the Inspector General did the investigation that I requested did we find out that Halliburton was not telling the truth, nor was the U.S. Army. It's a sad comment. Let's show a picture of some money. The fellow that was holding this cash came to testify. I believe I have a chart that shows the money. These are $100 bills in bricks wrapped with saran wrap. This guy named Frank, this was in a building in Baghdad. Down below in the vault of that building, there were several $billion. And by the way, $18 billion of cash was loaded on C-130s from this country to go to Iraq. $18 billion in cash, and it wasn't accounted for. And there was a man that was contracted to be able to do the accounting. His name was Howell. His address was a residential home in San Diego, California, and his company allegedly was North Star Consulting. And no one has ever been able to find anything that North Star Consulting did, except we know they got $1.4 million, and there's no evidence they had any accounting on staff, any accountant at all, and there's no evidence that any accounting of the $18 billion in cash that was moved by C-130 airplane to Iraq was accounted for. This is $2 million. This $2 million, and by the way, Frank said from time to time they would throw these around as footballs in the office because there's a lot of cash around there. He said the refrain in their office is, you bring a bag because we pay in cash. He said it was like the Wild West. This belonged to Custer Battles, by the way, this cash. They showed up in Iraq with no experience, a new company. They got $100 million in contracts very quickly. And then a whistleblower who at least the whistleblower says they threatened to kill him. The whistleblower said, you can't do this. And among other things, they took forklift trucks that belonged to the Baghdad airport, took them in a warehouse, allegedly painted them blue, and then sold them back to the Coalition Provisional Authority. That was us, by the way. We were paying for all of that. Custer Battles. This was their money. They've been under criminal investigation now for some while. That was just $2 million, but they got $100 million. These health care facilities that were supposed to be built, and the Iraqi health minister said, you don't understand. Many of these were imaginary clinics. Well, the money's gone. The American taxpayer got fleeced again. The money's all gone, but the clinics don't exist. And Mr. President, we have shoveled money out the door here in this Congress. This president has said, I want to send soldiers to war, but I don't intend to pay for it. Not a cent of it's been paid for. Since the war started, every single dollar has been requested as an emergency from the president. Emergency spending. It's unbelievable. Nearly $2/3 of $1 trillion. Emergency spending. A substantial amount of money has been shoveled out the door here for contracting. Very big contracts in Iraq. Some reconstruction, some replenishment of military accounts, but very large contracts with almost no oversight. The American taxpayer has been stolen blind. This is easy to say, in my judgment, the largest amount of waste, fraud, and abuse in the history of this country. It's gone on for over 5 years. There is no excuse, none, for this Congress not creating a Truman Committee with subpoena power, bipartisan, to investigate and bring to justice and provide the oversight necessary on this kind of contract abuse. We need in this Congress a committee, a bipartisan select committee with subpoena power, and we need it now. Mr. President, I yield the floor. I make a point of order.